People say that 35mm is the gateway drug to film photography, and it all starts out really innocent. You give it a try, just once, just to see how it feels like to shoot film. And then suddenly all of your friends shoot medium format film, and of course you have to give that a try. But I mean, it can't be that bad. You could always stop. And you shoot 6x5 and then suddenly a roll of 6x6 every now and then. And of course in that course you have to give 6x7 a try. And then you start to kind of feel it in your whole body, the craving for larger negatives, the urge to shoot bigger cameras, the need for an even slower process, and you know you shouldn't. People tell you that this is the stuff to keep away from, that large format is the stuff that really gets you addicted, not only mentally but physiologically. And yeah, you try to resist, but you can't help it. And you think to yourself, well, it's just once, isn't it? People tell me that they cannot pronounce my name because I never say my name in the beginning of videos. So today, once and for all, hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Karin Majoka, and in this video I am shooting large format film for the very first time. Not too long ago I spent a weekend by the Baltic Sea in the north of Germany, and in that course also paid my friend Heiner a visit. And Heiner is a photojournalist living in Rostock, who by the way is also part of the Bronica gang, who started shooting large format film not too long ago. And Heiner was kind enough to introduce me to the magic mushrooms of film photography and spent the day letting me shoot with his 4x5 camera. We shot with a Chamonix. We shot with a CHAMONIX H2, which is a large format, more precisely 4x5 camera. And this, by the way, was my reaction looking through the ground glass of a large format camera for the very first time.
Alter! Oh, du bist nice. Das ist mega geil! Boah, sorry, ich bin gerade richtig am Fangirl.
Du, alles gut.
Before hitting the road to get some shots, Heiner also gave me a little all-around crash course about large format photography. So I learned about all the different parts of the camera, about the different movements this camera is able to make, how the lens is attached to the lens board, and also, of course, how to load film.
Auch einmal hier unten diese Fassung. Unter diesen beiden Linien muss der Film halt dann runterkommen. So Seitwärtsliege, genau.
And while I was still practicing with the test sheet in daylight, Heiner did all of the hard work and loaded our sheets into his Toyo film holders. Heiner shot 6 sheets of TMax 100, but spoiler alert, sadly only 5 made it out alive, and I shot 4 sheets of Kodak Portra 160 VC that I bought randomly from eBay like a year ago for €5 a box. The Portra belonged to a retired photographer and had some really cryptic notes on the box.
Melden, Kisa, G+J, LH. 50 in Resort, Snow King.
But even more puzzling than the notes on the box was the ISO question, because this film has already been expired since 2008, which is why I in the end rated it at ISO 50.
2008 ist ja auch ein guter Jahrgang.
Ist gut gereift. Ein guter Wein. Ja. Portra muss reifen.
Leg das mal so hin, dass auch nichts passieren kann.
And please don't tell my cat Momo, but I have to admit that I fell madly in love with Heiner's dog Heinrich, who was also a very faithful companion for the day. And after packing everything up, Heiner, Heinrich and I hit the road, grabbed some cold drinks and went to the shooting location of the day, which were a bunch of abandoned gardens.
Na, was denkst du? Manchmal ist schon letztes Mal in den Tümpel gefallen, der noch gedeckt war.
Oh, jetzt ist er ein Grashüpfer geworden.
As we arrived at the location, I could definitely feel what a lot of people had described to me beforehand, that it can be really nerve-wracking to choose a subject and a composition if you have this limited amount of shots. And in the end I decided to go with this kind of fence arc thingy because I thought that it kind of neatly framed up the building and the window behind it, and I thought that it would be a good subject for a large format because that way I could try to get all of the lines kind of straight and even.
Den hier?
Genau.
Einfach rausziehen?
Genau. Das Ding habe ich da schon zurückgenommen.
Und jetzt einfach nur noch drücken. Okay, das ist gerade gar nicht so wichtig. Dann würde ich sagen, 3. Na, es wird weniger. Moment.
Das ist schön, ne?
Und jetzt quasi dann so wieder rein.
And that, by the way, was my I cannot handle it because it's just too freaking cool face. And while my shot took forever to set up, and while I just needed some good portion of time to build up the confidence to finally press the shutter, Heiner was way more routine than me and had his shot kind of set up and taken in no time. For my second shot I went with a kind of similar arrangement of elements with this arc thing in the foreground and the building with the window in the background, but this time luckily the amount of time I took for the shot was a bit more comfy because I was able to chill on the ground. Apart from large format photography, another field I have little to no experience in is flash photography. And if we combine these two, we actually hit home when it comes to Heiner's photography, because he likes to experiment a lot with the flash when shooting film. In this spot here, Heiner took 2 images of the same composition, once with and once without a flash, and also doing some kind of magic calculation to compensate for the bellow retraction. And I am a bit indecisive which one I like more, but I think in the end the slightly more spooky version with the flash does it for me. I also took an image of the very same building, and for me this is just a fabulous kind of example how 2 photographers with a different style and a different vision can take a look at the same scene and get 2 very, very different results. then something happened that I kind of thought could happen, but I still think it's funny that it happened, because a walker came by and asked us what kind of old camera we are shooting and if there's still film for that. But I guess this is what you have to get used to if you walk around with a big-ass camera like that. Of course, there is no possibility to tinker around with a 4x5 camera without also taking some portraits. And even though Heinrich was the born model and was kind of gladly posing for my X-Band, which Heiner kind of summed up in a very nice way.
Ein langer Hund, eine lange Kamera.
He was too shy to also step in front of the 4x5. So in the end, it was down to Heiner and me. And I have to say that there is a good reason why I like to be behind the camera, because it also means that I don't have to be in front of the camera. And I mean, I am in front of a camera now, but it's kind of different for a control freak like me to step in front of somebody else's camera. But of course, I was also keen to have my portrait taken on a large format camera, so I think it was really worth stepping out of my comfort zone.
Allerdings ist es halt auch so, weil die Wand so läuft. Kannst du mal so ungefähr hier unten an die Ecke gucken? Oder an die Wandecke?
für dich.
For me, it was a really interesting and refreshing change of perspective, which I would advise every photographer to do every now and then, because for me it showed me what kind of strain I might put on people when I casually ask them to step in front of my camera. And in the end, I think that Heiner did a really wonderful job on the two portraits of me. The portrait I took of Heiner was kind of the last and final challenge for me, because I wanted to shoot a bit more wide open, and on the images before I asked him to double check everything for me, but since he was not able to move, he obviously couldn't. So I was pretty anxious to mess things up, but surprisingly I didn't, and we got an image. And as a side note, Heiner's black and white images were all developed and scanned by himself, and my color images were sent to a lab and I received the scans and the negatives back, because I simply don't have the necessary equipment to develop 4x5 myself. So what are my thoughts after shooting large format for the very first time? If you couldn't figure already, I think it was just a lot of fun and super awesome. Firstly, because it gives you so much control over the movement, but also the focus plane of the camera, which kind of lets you get very creative with your compositions. And secondly, I am Captain Obvious here, but image quality, like how insanely big is this negative? And thirdly, the most important point is that large format lets you feel like a wizard, which is everything I wanted during my childhood and kind of still do today. These might not be my most incredible images I ever took, but they are still more than I anticipated, because I had 4 sheets of film and I got 4 images, which is more than I thought beforehand. Also, rating the film at ISO 50 was pretty much spot on in my opinion, and I surprisingly also hit focus on all 4 images, even the one I shot wide open at f4. And in the 3 kind of urban landscape images, I'm also kind of glad that I have this mini theme going on, because I tried to compose by using subframing, so I have a frame in a frame, in my frame, if that makes sense. As a conclusion, I knew this would happen because I'm right in the downward spiral of addiction, because of course I want a 4x5 camera now. Realistically speaking though, I know that this is probably just a wave of gas that is hitting me right now that maybe some of you know as well. Also, I set my focus on different things recently and I'm looking at you X-Pen over there, so 4x5 photography will remain a summer affair for me for now. Unless a large format camera manufacturer is willing to help out, then. But jokes aside, this was so much fun, so thanks again to Heiner for the help, for the support and the really relaxed and fun day, and greetings to Heinrich. And last but not least, I would of course be interested to hear about your level of addiction. Are you a large format junkie, or are you still happily consuming 35mm and 120 film? Let me know. And that said, I would say, see you in the next one. Karin Majoka, Karin Majoka, Karin Majoka.